So I'm speaking with Johnathan Darmapalan, who is the Global Telecoms Leader with Ernst & Young. Johnathan, we're here at ITU Telecom World 2011. We're on the show floor and we're surrounded by vendors, operators, national pavilions. So why is Ernst & Young here?
I lead the telecommunications practice for Ernst & Young, and Ernst & Young is here as the ITU's knowledge partner. So if you look behind me, you'll see the Ernst & Young Knowledge Hub, and our role is to really compile the information and the data and the discussions that are going on at the ITU 2011, and to compile it into a coherent, shareable piece of information.
So you're collecting all of this knowledge from around the show and the forum sessions. How are you planning to disseminate this?
Actually, we are driving the manifesto that's going to be the manifesto for change for the ITU. So we have analysts in various sessions. In fact, we have analysts in all the sessions. We're compiling the discussions and the transcripts that the speakers are delivering. And we're also driving a set of poll questions that are being asked of all the participants here.
And once you've collected all the viewpoints, you've collected the questions from the polls, you've collected the statements from the forum, what format will this be made available in?
The information that we're collecting and the polling questions that we have released into the audience is going to eventually be compiled into a manifesto for change. This manifesto for change is being delivered at the closing session of the ITU. And in about 2 weeks, a written report will also be released through the ITU for the benefit of the attendees and those who could not have been here.
Why is there a need for this manifesto for change?
If you look around us, the whole world of telecommunications is changing very, very rapidly. The ecosystems are starting to change. And what we're starting to discover is that the need for information and communications is becoming a fundamental and basic right. Governments, suppliers, communications companies, technology companies are all starting to recognize that. And it's the recognition that has caused the wellspring and a recognition that a manifesto for change is necessary as we speak.
Agreeing a manifesto is one thing, but how does the industry go about actually implementing this?
Actually, what we will start to see is that some basic infrastructure needs to be rolled out. The Broadband Commission, which met here on Monday and Tuesday, has already started to recognize that broadband is a part of that infrastructure that needs to be rolled out equally in urban and rural areas around the world to get information into the hands of the peoples of this world. This type of a question initially starts off with effectively a policy decision, but eventually has to be implemented in hard assets. One has to then ask the question as to who pays for these assets? What is the business? What's the business imperative? What are the right incentives to build into the system so that those who are capable of rolling out broadband and communications and mobile and all these capabilities are able to actually make that happen? That's the reason for creating a manifesto for change.
One of the models we hear a lot about now is the public-private partnership model. Is there now a widespread acceptance of the fact that you need both the public and private sectors to cooperate?
Actually, what governments have recognized is that this is a policy issue. And they've also recognized that there's significant economic upswing by getting information in the hands of their people. As a result, governments are saying that they are willing to participate in the investment and the long-term play-out of this manifesto for change. And it is clearly recognized that it's not just a government job, and it's not just a private sector job, but a partnership between these two parties.
Okay. Now you mentioned earlier about infrastructure, the current infrastructure build-out with broadband. I guess we're also hearing that it's not just infrastructure, it's content, it's services, it's the applications, and bringing those together.
That's precisely my point about the ecosystem. So infrastructure is just one example of how the content is eventually delivered. But the content itself becomes a part of the ecosystem. The handsets, the computers, the consumer devices, all of them have to play equally to make this happen. The very precise driver for this type of a manifesto is that the ecosystem itself has brought
It's not just infrastructure though, is it? We also have to allow for content and services.
It's actually a very interesting problem that needs to be solved. We've recognized that as long as there is a business case, that the various stakeholders and the innovators will quickly enter the marketplace and create that opportunity. What we have to do, and what the ITU is trying to do, is to raise this discussion to a policy level. And by raising it to a policy level, creates the appropriate environment for the right players to enter the game and to make it possible to get information out and available to those who need it.
Johnathan Darmapalan, thank you very much indeed.